There's so much in those sentences that it's like it's the like. Frankly, I just do not have space or the time to educate you. I do have the space and the time
to
get a gun.
Yes.
An assassination. Do that. That I can do. That's a little easier. But the complexities of the healthcare system, I just read these.
Couldn't possibly walk you through.
I can direct you to some links and to some resources that I think would be good. Because frankly, I'm not going to do it. But
I am my job to educate you.
But I am courageous. I'm Jon Favreau.
I'm Max Fisher.
Max, welcome back.
Thank you.
We have lots to cover.
God, there's so much going on in the offline world.
So much.
Maybe another friend of the pod out there, and taking it a little far.
Think hard about that offline challenge.
Unrequited friendship. Yeah, that's right. I should be clear. It's an unrequited friendship of the pod.
Let's get to the news we're all here for. On Wednesday, December 4th, UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson was shot dead outside a Midtown Manhattan motel by a masked gunman. 5 days later, police in Altoona, Pennsylvania, arrested 26-year-old Luigi Mangione, who was identified by a McDonald's customer. He was found carrying a ghost gun, suppressor, a fake New Jersey ID, allegedly used to check into a Manhattan hostel, and a 262-word handwritten manifesto. It's hard to call that a manifesto. More like a memo, more like a short memo.
You're not subscribing to Smart Brevity? You don't like the Axios of terrorist manifestos? Be smarter.
You learn from Jim Vandehei.
That's right.
Yet another inspiration.
Are we sure that Jim Vandehei was not on the grassy knoll on this one?
So, we are neither a true crime podcast nor a show about healthcare,
sure.
But the social media reaction and the suspect's extensive digital footprint are right in our wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. So here we go. Mm-hmm. The shooter has been widely embraced on multiple platforms by users on the far left as well as some on the right, with people posting memes, calls for solidarity, and even a handful of fan cams featuring photos found on the shooter's Tinder profile, interspersed with security cam footage from the shooting. Someone even got a tattoo.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the tattoo?
Of Luigi.
I mean, he's a good-looking guy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get the tattoo.
Yeah. Yeah. It could have been a deny, depose. The words on the bullet casings were deny, depose,
right now.
And
delay.
Yeah, thank you.
That's right.
Deny, delay, and depose. Sorry, I'm not part of the movement.
Your application's still in the mail.
It's still in the mail. United Health Group had to turn off reactions to their announcement of Thompson's death on Facebook and LinkedIn because there were too many laughing and thumbs up emojis. Ex-Washington Post and New York Times journalist, also former offline ghost Taylor Lorenz, said on Piers Morgan's show that she felt, quote, joy, and wrote a Substack piece titled, quote, why we want insurance executives dead.
Listen, we're talking about her. She got us to mention her name. Taylor Lorenz mentioned.
As you would expect, politicians have been more measured, though Elizabeth Warren...
I know. This shocked me, honestly.
One of our faves, Elizabeth Warren, out there responded by saying, quote, violence is never the answer, but people can be pushed only so far. And that the shooting was a, quote, warning to the health insurance industry and the political system.
Boy, it's a nice rule of law you got there. Be a shame if anything happened to it.
I gotta say, Max, this is one where it was like... It started in the first day or two after, and I'm like, there's some crazy stuff going on social media about this. It's only gotten worse.
Yeah, I've noticed
it hasn't gotten better. It's gotten worse.
This is bothering you.
We can get into it.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like, what is it about it that you think is alarming you?
There's a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah.
I think number one is you either believe that vigilante justice and political violence are bad.
Sure.
In every case, or not.
Yeah.
Right? And if we are trying to uphold a democratic system, then no extrajudicial killings, no extrajudicial violence, and no political violence. Right? So
Seems
you're either
like a good bar to set.
If you think that UnitedHealthcare Group has broken laws, then we need to depend on the justice system to right that wrong. And if there is injustice, if they do not hold them accountable, then that is the justice system that we have. It fails all the time.
Sure.
If you believe that UnitedHealthcare is following the law, but are just creating sort of monstrous results for people, then you change the policy and the politics around it, because that's the system we have.
Right.
But in either case, violence is not the answer, period.
Sure.
Not but.
Right. Yeah.
Violence is not the answer, period. There's a second thing bothering me just from a political strategy perspective, which is I think a lot of the people who are you're either celebrating it, like Taylor Lorenz, you're excusing it, you're glorifying it, whatever you're doing.
There's a lot of that. Yeah.
Whatever you're doing, you can react however you want. Do not listen to this episode and think that we are scolding you or policing you.
Sure.
You can laugh.
Sure.
You can do whatever. Do not think you are participating in discourse or a movement that is going to lead to political and social change and suddenly make insurance companies treat people better.
I saw some viral tweets to the effect of, all of a sudden, I heard from my sister who went to the pharmacist that every insurance claim is going through now because they really heard us and they really listened. And I just don't think that's
not
true.
That's not correct.
I don't think
That's just not correct.
So I agree with all that. I think that this to me, I think feels like a bit of a Twitter is not exactly real life moment. I mean, offline, every single person I've talked to since this has happened has either made a joke about it or has said some half-serious version of boy, that health insurance executive got what he deserved, right? Or boy, those guys sure are bloodsuckers and now they know what it feels like. But I think that is not the same as what you would see superficially as the prevailing attitude online, which is this kind of what you're referencing, this cosplaying, anarchist, radical, revolutionary that I think in truth just begins and ends with posting. And I think that what we are seeing is a little bit of online edgelording of people saying, look how radical and brave I am for saying actually it's good to kill the CEO. And then a lot of lighthearted online memeing that we can say whether or not it's in good taste.
Right.
But I think it's just treating this as a yarn to follow rather than, and I think people are telling themselves or tricking themselves into saying that the online edgelording radical anarchist, we're going to kill all the CEOs sentiment is real. And that this goes to show that everybody wants single payer healthcare and everybody wants to purge all the CEOs in a Maoist cultural revolution. And I don't think that that's what's happening.
It also bothers me that there's a lot of it's just all these elites just don't understand the anger that's out there. It's no, that's not.
I know.
Yeah.
Sure.
Very aware
Yeah.
that insurance companies deny claims all the time, that the healthcare system can be a fucking mess,
right,
and it can be brutal.
Right.
And I'm not surprised that there is intense anger and rage out there for people who've faced financial ruin or lost their lives or lost loved ones or have just suffered because of the healthcare system we have, where if you can't afford healthcare, which many people can't, you could either die or at least lose everything you have. Of course there's rage about that.
Yeah.
But acting like doing the edgelord cosplaying is somehow helping others is what bothers me, because really it's just about you.
Oh, for sure.
You feel like it's cathartic for you,
right,
or you feel like you are performing for other people who think like you. And so the whole thing is a performance. If you actually want to bring about social and political change, then there's the political system, there's nonviolent protest and nonviolent movements, which, we had one in this country a while back that was pretty successful, civil rights movement. And there's a lot of research that honestly, that nonviolent movements are more effective than violent political movements, right?
Yeah.
So just the idea that you're in the know and you're in touch with people.
For sure. No,
unlike the
it's
elite,
all self-flattery. No, I agree. But if I can speak to, I think the word that you used, catharsis, I think is exactly the right one for describing why people who are not the kind of super online meme lords
might just be good.
Yeah, I think it's like, I think people are not expressing, and there is, like the stuff you cited about like, everyone is kind of going crazy for this guy. I think that is a real thing that's out there. I don't think it's literally that people think we should murder all the CEOs. I mean, for one, the fact that we know a lot about Luigi Mangione specifically, and he is a real person, and we just know the healthcare CEO guy as like faceless healthcare CEO, I think goes a long way to explain why people feel okay supporting this. I don't think that would be true if like he was a guy with a face who we felt like we knew. But I think that the degree to which people are supporting this symbolically, I think it is out of a sense that not just that we all know that the healthcare industry is bad and exploitative, but that it is an issue on which the political system is also unresponsive, corrupt, broken. And that is not to say that people have not tried, but as you yourself experienced, you can get really, really far in trying to reform the healthcare system, but you're still going to encounter the Joe Liebermans who are going to put up that final block. And to be at that moment where it feels like the entire nation is behind reforming the healthcare system, and we still have, even though it is of course much improved under Obamacare, we still have this bullshit private system with insurers. I think that it feels to people, especially people who are maybe not following every like twist and turn in healthcare reform and legislation, like this system is corrupt, it's broken, it's being forced on us in a way that just like having your health insurance claim denied feels disempowering and humiliating. And I'm not saying that that means that it's good to endorse murder, but I think that that is why people like this, like, yeah, fuck them kind of attitude.
Well, and that's a really good point. It is not those people that are real that bother me.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because if your only impression of the healthcare system is your personal interaction with the healthcare system when it fucks you over, right? Then like you're going to have that rage. That is understandable. It is people like journalists like a Taylor Lorenz or people, who people do this like, or pundits or observers.
There's so many people like this
who should know better. Who should know better about like what's true about the trade-offs of a healthcare system and why we don't have healthcare reform, right? Which is a big part of it is the profit motive of private insurance companies. A big part of it is the fact that they spend a lot of money in our political system to get their way. They have money to go lobby health politicians. An average person does not. That is a real problem. It's also true that as you dive into healthcare reform, which I have, that there are a lot of reason. There are a lot of trade-offs. People, even in other countries that have some form of socialized medicine, that have some sort of that don't have private health insurance or have mostly public insurance and not private insurance. You know what? People pay more out of pocket. Than they do here. The insurance companies here actually pay more of the out-of-pocket fees than in some other countries because the trade-off is you're guaranteed coverage here. Here, you're not guaranteed coverage. Right?
The cause of the problem is not the existence of health insurance executives.
Yeah, or exactly, certainly not the existence. But it's not just the system of private health insurance alone. It is part of the problem here. But if we got rid of that system, there could still be government bureaucrats, nameless, faceless bureaucrats denying your insurance claim as they do at the NHS in the UK all the time.
I have lived under a single payer healthcare system. There's much to say in support of it. There's much I loved about it, and there's a lot about it that sucks. And that's going to be true of any national healthcare system.
And that's not to say that like we shouldn't have that or we can't do better. No, fuck that. Like again, we said this on Pod Save America, but like I'm still a fan of Pete Buttigieg's, Medicare for all who want it plan. And let's get either a robust public option or let people buy into Medicare and see if they like it and see how the system goes from there, because we are dealing with the idea that if we were starting from scratch, that perhaps single payer would be a better system for us, but we're not, because we live in fucking reality. And if we want to move to somewhere better, then you have to wrestle with the trade-offs. You have to build a movement. You have to convince people that it's better, because it's not just the elites that are in your way, but like a lot of Americans who are wrestling with the fact that they don't know if they want private insurance or government insurance because they don't trust big businesses or the government. And that's all stuff that you have to wrestle with, and that's a lot harder to deal with than just being like, oh, the executive's bad. Cool.
It did occur to me that I agree with all of that. And it is every time I see someone say that, like, oh, this proves that the fact that there's a lot of memes around this guy proves that there's a mass movement in America for massive healthcare reform. It's like, were you not fucking here? In 2010, there was the whole movement where people got mad just for improving the system.
Just for improving the system.
Yeah.
And like, I said this on Pod Save America, so forgive me if you've heard that episode too, but we passed the ACA, and the first thing that happened in 2013, aside from the unfortunate website rollout, which again is like doesn't say great things about government running healthcare.
I can still see those pajamas in my mind.
Right. And then number 2, we tried to cancel all of the shitty health insurance plans that weren't good for people, that didn't cover a lot, that didn't pay for a lot. And everyone got fucking mad because they're like, this was my healthcare plan. And you told me you weren't going to cancel my healthcare plan. It's like, well, we wanted to cancel your healthcare plan because it's a shitty plan. We want to give you better insurance so that you don't face financial ruin. Even that small step pissed people off, right? So it's more complicated.
Yeah.
And this is why it's good to talk about this here. It is much more complicated than the online debate.
The viral tweet that you get with the bumper sticker. Can I say one more thing about the movement in support of the assassination? It occurred to me that the Venn diagram of people who think that killing a health insurance executive on the street is a form of righteous political change, and the people who think that killing Osama bin Laden was imperial murder overreach is probably a circle, or pretty close to a circle.
Well, we were saying this earlier today, you and I, which is like, it reminds me, like, back after 9/11, there was like, why do they hate us? Right?
Yeah.
And there was a debate then about, like, are we excusing Al-Qaeda? Or is it important to look at the source?
The legitimate grievances.
The legitimate grievance, right, yeah. And I think it is entirely fair after you say, like, violence is not only morally wrong, but it is like antithetical to goals, to political goals in a democratic system. Once you leave that aside, you can say, like, how do we create a healthcare system where people aren't so pissed and upset that they are either, in despairing or losing all their life savings or dying, or someone like Luigi, like, you can ask that question without being like, well, people get pushed to their limits sometimes.
I know. Osama bin Laden was pushed to his limits.
Right. Yeah, maybe we were just like, well, American imperialism. I guess we deserved it.
And you know what else they have in common? A couple of rich boys from privileged families.
Right.
That grew up and got radicalized.
Yeah. Wasn't some, yeah, exactly. Wasn't some like poor kid from Afghanistan. It was a fucking rich Saudi.
Not a lot of people know that Luigi Mangione's parents air-conditioned Mecca. Not a lot of people know that. Yeah, it's a huge project.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. And in the same sense, like, people are pointing to, so Ben Shapiro said something about this, and a bunch of his commenters were like, no, they were celebrating or at least excusing the murder as well. And so everyone's like, oh, well, it's bipartisan. I don't know this is the kind of healthy bipartisanship that the political establishment often pines for. It feels to me more horseshoe theory-like, or more crank realignment, as Matt Iglesias calls it, we talked about before.
I think there's some of that. And I think, again, it all depends on kind of how seriously you take, like, are people just saying that I'm mad and he's someone who expressed my anger, or like saying I support this news article that I saw expresses my anger. But I mean, look, what is the defining feature of our time but a desire to strike back at an establishment that feels corrupt and unresponsive? And that doesn't mean that everybody wants, to shoot a healthcare CEO, but I think that is something that resonates across the spectrum for sure.
Yeah.
And there is a to your point about political violence, there is a straight line. It shows up across eras, across countries, between distrusts of the establishment and feeling the political system is unresponsive and support for political violence.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's where we are, but even the fact that
it's something to worry about, though.
For sure.
And it's not it's not something just for elites to worry about. Right. That's not why we're talking about it here.
Right.
it is something for literally everyone in the country to worry about, right?
Yeah.
Like Luigi Mangione's life isn't going to be much better now,
Yeah.
nor is people who have been denied claims, nor is the family of the guy who was murdered.
I have reported from a lot of countries that experienced a rise in political violence on quote unquote the right side, and it never made the country better off. People were never happier for it.
No, it does. It is self-defeating. It is self-defeating.
So we are against political violence on this show.
I guess that's what we have. It's wild. That's the take now. This podcast is sponsored by the Washington Post. If you listen to Offline, you care about what's going on in the world. Listening to us is great, but if you want even more great coverage of our crazy world, you should subscribe to the Washington Post. The Washington Post does great work on topics like Capitol Hill, the economy, climate change, foreign policy, and much more. If you're in a rush and need to catch up quickly on the day's most important and interesting stories, the Post's The 7 newsletter is a quick commute read sent each weekday morning. The Post even offers a cool feature for audio lovers like you. You can actually listen to articles in addition to reading them, so you can tackle your to-do list and catch up on the news at the same time. Love the Post. Wouldn't be able to do Offline without the Post. Pod Save America. So many other things. And some of the best journalists in the country, in the world, work for the Washington Post, especially on their political beat. It's essential reading, so I highly recommend subscribing. Now more than ever, it's important to stay up to date on the world. So go to washingtonpost.com/offline to subscribe for just 50 cents per week for your first year. That's 80% off their typical offer, so this is truly a steal. Once again, that's washingtonpost.com/offline to subscribe for just 50 cents per week for your first year. Offline is brought to you by Mosh. If you're looking for an on-the-go protein snack that satisfies your cravings and is also chock full of nutritious ingredients that support brain and body function, look no further than Mosh Bars. Mosh Bar is made with ingredients that support brain health like ashwagandha, lion's mane, collagen, and omega-3s. Mosh is the only food brand boosted with Cognizin, a premium nootropic that supplies the brain with a patented form of citicoline. It comes in a variety of flavors like cookie dough, peanut butter, chocolate brownie, blueberry almond, mint chocolate, and more. Mosh was founded by Maria Shriver and her son, Patrick Schwarzenegger, with a simple mission to create a conversation about brain health through food, education, and research. Portion of proceeds from your order will fund gender-based brain health research through the Women's Alzheimer's Movement. Mosh bars are delicious. I actually wish we had some in the office right now. Could use a protein bar. But they're really tasty. All the flavors are good. Love peanut butter, love cookie dough. Give it a try. If you want to find ways to give back to others and fuel your body and your brain, Mosh bars are the perfect choice for you. Head to moshlife.com/offline to save 20% off, plus free shipping on the Bestsellers Trial Pack. That's 20% off plus free shipping on the Bestsellers Trial Pack at moshlife.com/offline. Thank you, Mosh, for sponsoring this episode. Offline is brought to you by Quince. Finding the perfect gift can be pretty overwhelming around the holidays. You always want to make sure you're giving gifts that people actually want. Yeah, that's a good idea. This year, give timeless gifts made from premium materials with Quince. Quince lets you treat your loved ones and yourself to everyday luxury at an affordable price. Their super soft fleece sweatpants are a major upgrade to whatever you're lounging in right now, and their packable puffer jackets are perfect for anyone who's traveling for the holidays. Unfortunately, I don't go anywhere where I need a packable puffer jacket, but let me tell you, those super soft fleece sweatpants, you're going to want some of those. They are very, very soft. They're great for just hanging around the house. They look great. Quince has a ton of great clothes. They got nice sweaters, shirts. Definitely check it out. Gift luxury this holiday season without the luxury price tag. Go to quince.com/offline for 365-day returns, plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/offline to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/offline. Let's talk a little bit about Luigi Mangione himself, who friends say was suffering from back pain after back surgery. But it seems like he got surgery. Mm-hmm. He had back pain.
Right.
He had Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Is that true, really?
Well, he talked about Blue Cross Blue Shield covering his irritable bowel syndrome, which he had had complaints about too. Mm-hmm. But I think what's notable is he basically disappeared for the last 6 months.
Right.
And I think there was a missing persons report filed on him. So his digital footprint disappeared in the last 6 months of before the killing. But the more we learn about him from his digital footprint, the more he seems like a fairly typical, highly educated, privileged Gen Z man who was so online that as you mentioned, there's a non-zero chance he's listened to at least one episode of this show.
I can't believe I'm saying this, his Goodreads review of Catherine Price's How to Break Up with Your Smartphone, he attached a Google Doc with a 12-page write-up of the book that was, I thought, pretty good. And a number of the points in it are things that we said in our interview with Catherine Price.
Jonathan Haidt, too. He was posting about him.
Yes.
On Twitter, he followed everyone from AOC and Ezra Klein to Joe Rogan and RFK Jr. Yeah, A.O. Scott at the New York Times describes his Goodreads reviews as, quote, books that fit comfortably into the universe of TED Talks, podcasts, and smart guy Substacks, which I thought was a good description.
Yeah.
But you spent a lot of time combing through all of the shooters' accounts. What else did you find? What are your thoughts on Luigi?
I know this guy. I fucking know. I have met this guy. I know this guy. Everyone is saying, oh, his views are incoherent or all over the place. It can make sense of him. No, everything about this guy's online footprint, the way he writes in his Smart Brevity manifesto, he is an extremely specific type of guy who I've met with an extremely specific media diet, specific politics. Okay. Educated, white male engineer who thinks of himself as curious, intellectual, a little bit woke, but a little bit contrarian and hyper-rational. He works in tech. He's into fitness, but not sports. Posts on Reddit, but in forums where people footnote their posts with links to academic articles, which he did in his manifesto, and actually an academic article that I've seen referenced before. It's a good one. Has a Goodreads where he writes long, thinky reviews. He is someone who is not part of the male loneliness epidemic, but has shared extensive thoughts on how it should be addressed. And those thoughts 100% align, I would say, with the podcast Offline with Jon Favreau. I mean, beat for beat. And most importantly, I think like the key to understanding this guy, he listens to this network of podcasters who all have PhDs or tech accelerators and mostly do 3-hour interviews with like neuroscientists who talk about how to optimize your sleep or use AI to absorb more books. Like Andrew Huberman, Lexi Friedman, Tim Ferriss, Tim Urban. Like this is not the Rogan-verse at all, but it is a large and self-contained pod-based media ecosystem.
Yeah,
and
it's like adjacent to the Rogan-verse.
It's
not really adjacent. It's maybe on the there is no spectrum anymore, I guess. Political spectrum.
It's not.
But I was going to say it's a click.
Axes.
It's a click away.
Honestly, in all sincerity, not doing a bit, I would say that it is a little bit closer to Crooked Media but it is substantially closer to Ezra Klein, who he follows.
Ezra.
And I know. Oh, God. Call your office, Ezra. You even see this in his manifesto. Like he refers to the process of tracking down his target as, quote, fairly trivial and a matter of some elementary social engineering. You ever talk to a Silicon Valley white male programmer, that is exactly how they talk. It is his mindset that everything is an engineering problem, society is an engineering problem, and if us smart people apply some cold, hard logic that we can fix the bugs in the system, which aside from whatever like break he may or may not have had, I am sure informed his thinking here, and he thought that he was just like taking some step that was rationally going to improve our healthcare system.
The most online-brained part of the manifesto that I've heard in a million different ways from others who did not kill CEOs. And again, this is non-ideological. This is across the political spectrum. Obviously, the problem is more complex. But I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty. There's so much in those sentences that it's like it's the like this is a complex problem, but it's not on me to educate you. And also like, oh, I'm the first. Yeah, you're the first person. You're the first person to face down the brutality of the healthcare system in America. No one has ever confronted that before.
I'm telling you, I have texted with this guy. I actually, in all sincerity, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who work in Silicon Valley who were like, I came into work today and I was looking around at the desk and being like, that guy are all Luigi Mangione.
Frankly, I just do not have space or the time. to educate you. I do have the space and the time
To do an
get a gun.
assassination? Yes.
Yeah, an assassination. Do that. That I can do. That's a little easier. But the complexities of the healthcare system, I just read
I
these.
couldn't possibly walk you through it.
I can direct you to some links and to some resources that I think would be good. Because frankly, I'm not going to do it. But
It's
I
not
am.
my job to educate you.
But I am courageous because I can stand up to the power games at
So
play.
you're
None
saying,
of you understand that.
You're saying that you are not going to subscribe to the Substack that he is 100% going to start from prison.
Oh my gosh. There was a great tweet that I noticed. Austin did too. He put it in the Slack from someone named Cancela Lansbury. Also, just fucking fantastic Twitter name.
I love it.
Luigi is just another toxic Bernie bro turned Hubermanitarian, eco-fascist, Luddite, accelerationist, roided out gym rat, supplement pill chaser, Trotskyite with washboard abs who refuses to elevate marginalized voices and probably hasn't even seen Wicked.
That's right. 100%. But they missed Yimby. He's definitely a Yimby.
Definitely a Yimby.
Has a lot of thoughts
Definitely a
on
Yimby.
urban planning. Yeah. But nailed it.
Here's another thing for us here on Offline to reckon with. It seems like this is a case of someone who was not radicalized online, like many, and I've seen a couple people make this point. He was it seems like he was radicalized offline.
Yeah.
Either in the 6 months between when he sort of fell off the face of the earth and then the killing happened, or like. And he kind of says this in the manifesto. He's like, "You're not going to find much from my digital footprint. I'm an engineer." Like he knew enough not to be, crazy online.
Right. I mean, what I will say is it is completely of Silicon Valley guy thinking to look at a problem in society outside of engineering and be like, well, no one who's smart enough to be a tech engineer has looked at this problem seriously yet and has tried to solve it. So clearly something happened in the last 6 months that took him, I would say, a pretty big step further from posting on Reddit to what he did. But I do think that you can kind of draw a line between, fucking Mark Zuckerberg used to talk all the time about how, like, well, with a few lines of code on the Facebook algorithm, we can, like, promote democracy worldwide. Like, this is kind of a, like, way of thinking.
I know it is. It's just very. What is online about the thinking is everything is black and white. Right. There are simple explanations. There are easy answers, and the reason that things have not been fixed is we are ruled by crooks and idiots. Right. And I, with my rational knowledge, will come in and I can fix it. But I mean, it's a little like there's obviously no violence involved, but it reminded me of like Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk doing Doge, and like every day is something new to them. It's like, did you know that government wastes money and there's this program that doesn't work and blah blah blah. We're gonna bring tech know-how to this and figure it all out.
So how do you think Luigi voted in 2020? Because I have my guess.
I think he voted for Trump.
No way.
You think Kamala?
I think 2020.
Oh, 2020. Oh.
I think at least Liz Warren voter, maybe Bernie.
I think he's a registered Republican. They said.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, he voted, and he voted in the.
I think he voted in the. Not doing my research.
I think he voted in the Maryland primary. He's from Maryland. Also, his family, very wealthy family in Maryland.
Sure.
Like some of them are in Maryland, Republican politics in Maryland. So it's a very. It's not, it's not something that you just predict. Though, like you said, his political beliefs and identities are cohesive.
They are, absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely I could buy that.